So you guys invited me to the PGF, right? We have a lot of mutual friends. We kind of knew each other from before. You know, we hung out in various places pertaining jiu-jitsu, right? That's our circle. And for whatever reason, you guys decided you're gonna invite me to be one of the team captains. This guy with the hair and the crazy shit, right? Did you think I was gonna show up?
No. I didn't think there was any way. I called Matt from Epic Roll,
Right.
and I was like, all right, Matt, I really would love it if Epic Roll would come and be one of the team sponsors.
Right.
And he was like, oh, dude, that sounds awesome. Tell me about what it is. I was like, you have to be in Alabama for a week. You have to leave your family behind for a week. He's like, okay, big ask. I was like, yeah. But as I explained it to him, he was like, oh man, that sounds, you know what, dude, I'm going to call Zoe and see if he wants to come. It's like, what? That would be the sickest. And then, what? Because, you know, at this point, like before season 5 starts, it's always just been like local guys, you know what I mean, for the most part. And we had some people coming in from farther away for season 5. We had a lot of good momentum, especially at that time. It was a lot of momentum compared to our previous seasons. And so I was like, man, that's going to really, like, just having cool people around is really going to elevate the experience for everybody. But did I actually think you would show up? No, that's like, there's no way. It's too busy. And I knew you were on tour.
Right.
So to me, like, logistically, like, how's he going to even be able to go?
I mean, that's a thing. When we're on tour, sometimes I look at my tour schedule and there are some competitions and I sneak off to do the competitions and everybody freaks out. So this is actually not uncommon that I would get off tour or I find a couple of days and I would go. But you're almost right. 2-3 days before the competition is happening, you know, my assistant calls, hey man, are you sure you really wanna go to Alabama? I mean, we have a lot of fans there, so it's nothing wrong with Alabama. It's just, it's gonna take 3 different plane rides to get there. Right? So are you sure you want to go? I'm like, man, you know, I love those guys. I kind of know them now, and I promised that it's jiu-jitsu. What can go wrong? You know, I mean, let's go. And so we were having this conversation. I'm like, you know what? Why don't I call Glover? Because anywhere I take Jeff Glover, it's a riot, right? So I'm like, you know what?
Course.
Let me call Glover, and if he comes with us, then it's no matter what, fun is guaranteed, right?
Yeah. So now, one of my jiu-jitsu heroes is showing up for the week, which was like, I didn't even know that until like the day before. Right. And man, I grew up in martial arts and jiu-jitsu, watching and studying and obsessing over Jeff Glover, like his deep half guard and his triangle chokes particularly. Like, to me, he's just like, he's the first dude that really brought like, style to the game,
right?
You know what I'm saying? Like he gave jiu-jitsu that skateboarding feel for the very first time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he's a surfer.
Yeah, him and Bill Cooper brought that in the game. And so when I find out, okay, we got a rock star coming, we got one of my jiu-jitsu heroes coming, I was like, doesn't even matter what happens. I'm gonna have a great week.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's same thing with me and Glover. You know, I when I started jiu-jitsu, I was a judo guy first, obviously, and you know, so I was a judo black belt long before I even started jiu-jitsu. But when I started jiu-jitsu, I was keenly aware of Glover. You know, so he was one of those heroes and of jiu-jitsu, and I always thought like he needs a bigger platform because he became an important character in jiu-jitsu before jiu-jitsu's explosion kind of happened. Yeah. So that was one of the reasons why you know, obviously we can tell to this world, but it was kind of my idea, like, hey, let's bring in Glover as one of the team captains because he's so much fun. And so we're actually giving him this platform now because he gave us that we could watch him, you know, and then it's pretty cool to give that back. But back to the linear events. So, okay, so we came, we showed up, and so that was the first, right? Now, after I experienced the draft and I got really excited about it, I really thought like this is true entertainment. It doesn't matter that you like or dislike jiu-jitsu or you understand or don't understand jiu-jitsu. This is pure entertainment. How we are the coaches and there are 3 more teams, and how we're beating and outbidding each other, and it was incredible to me. You guys did such a great job, and I think it's such a great idea, right? That you're bringing a bridge into this that connects jiu-jitsu to people who might be interested or not even interested, but will be interested once they saw this, right? So I was watching that, and then I'm already thinking like, you know what? I want to be involved in this. So the next day, I was sitting in the warm-up area, and I saw you coming in. I'm like, you know what? I'm the kind of person, whatever's on my mind, you're gonna hear exactly how it's on my mind. I'm like, Jeff, Brendan, come here, sit down for a second. I want to talk to you about this PGF and where it is going. And I told you some crazy stuff, what I thought this can be. Can you recall what that was?
Yeah, the 2 main things that stick out in my head was just you going, what do you want to do with this? And I said, man, I just want to do something cool for the community. That's really all it's ever been. It's just I want to do something cool for everybody to be a part of. I want to turn it into a sport as much as possible, even if we're just doing it on this small scale. And you said, no, this is going to be $100 million company. You're going to have thousands of employees. And I was like,
So when I said that, Hollywood is famous about people saying the crazy crap, right? So did you think like, oh my God, this is, we invited this freaking guy, and now he's dropping me the Hollywood lines of like, bro, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that.
Well, I didn't think it was lies at all. I just didn't know how serious, because we're just now starting to get to know each other at this point. It's not like we've been friends forever. We're just like running in the same circles a little bit and hanging out some. And so I didn't really understand who I was dealing with in some ways, you know what I'm saying? That like you're the kind of dude who, like, you're an action taker. Like, you don't just sit on the sidelines, like you're an action taker. But I didn't know that at that time, So I was just like, well, thanks, man. We'll see what happens.
And then I remember we went to this one of the, maybe it was day 3, right? The competition was already going. It was
we went to Longhorn Steakhouse.
And then like, let's go to the steakhouse, because at this point I decided that even if you don't like me, or if you don't want to be partners, I'm heavily armed, so we're gonna be partners. Right? I don't think you're. Now, we had this conversation. He resisted. I got some. He got some. You know what I mean? So no, we went to the steakhouse, right? And I was committed. You didn't know it at this point, but because you were thinking from your perspective of what it took for you to build this. What a struggle, what an uphill struggle this was, and in every way, both as an organization, manpower, financially, you had to come out of your pocket. You guys built this really literally on your own back, with your own work and your own sweat, and with your own financial commitment to this. So you lost. It's losing if you didn't enjoy it. So you didn't lose the money, but you invested the money. Everything that this is, you built and you invested your own money into this, right? And I knew that you're looking at it from that perspective. I was looking at it from my perspective, like, well, you don't know what I can do and add to this. Plus, my partner, Heather Grace, is obviously, with her network, the two of us can really do something serious here. So that's how I was looking at it. So I'm like, okay, I'm already committed in my mind. I already knew that we're doing this. You know what I mean? Like, you do ever say, but we're doing this, right? So we're gonna do the steakhouse, and then same thing, I'm telling you stories and talking to you about what it can be, and you still had that face of like, is this for real?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Right. Okay.
Like, is this really happening?
So what was going through the mind when the second time I came and I said, you know what, we gotta do this?
Well, I knew you brought it up again, right. And so I was like, okay, he really wants to have this conversation for real. But mostly what I'm thinking is, like, what is Keelan thinking? You know what I mean? Right. Like, is he into this idea? And so we left that conversation that night, and me and Keelan got in the car, and we just looked at each other, and we were like, okay, we're gonna do this, But yeah, I just didn't know until I talked to Keelan. I didn't, because sometimes I'm naive, you know what I mean? And I'll be like, everybody's my best friend, like right away, you know, it's just my natural way. And so it's easy for me and you to get along, easy for me and you to talk. But Keelan, he'll be a lot more like down to earth and realistic. And so I was like, well, I got to talk to Keelan. I got to talk to Lindsay. And I go back and I kind of lay out for them what you laid out for me. And they were like, yo, we got to do this.
Now, you might not know this, but you know, how the world works around me.
Okay.
All information always comes back to me, right? So I do have knowledge of, you called Eddie Bravo.
I did.
Your professor, right? And you called Matt.
Yeah, well, I pulled Matt off to the side.
Right.
I was like, all right, dude, tell me what Zoe's like. Tell me what it's like.
So Matt is the Matt for the guys who don't know Matt. So Matt Wallstrom is the founding father of Epic Roll, and he built this massive jiu-jitsu community around the brand, and this brand was exploding on its own. It's fully word of mouth by people love him, love the brand, right? And I became partners with him for the same reason, because I saw if you can do this on your own with my resources, this will go, right? So I became partner with him. So that's who Matt is. So I know that you went to Matt, and I know you went to Eddie. What happened?
I wanted to know what their experience was like, being your friend and being around you and doing business with you. Like, so I pulled Matt off to the side. I was like, all right, I'm thinking about doing this thing with Zoe, but I want to know what your experience is like. Like, what's it like to do business with him? Is he an honest guy? Is he a good guy? Is he a party animal? Like, because if he's a party animal, like, we're not gonna get along so good. Right. I'm a boring little country boy, you know what I mean?
I'm a boring little black belt choking at people daily just out of boredom, right? Okay, so go on.
And Matt was like, yeah, dude, it's been nothing but a tremendous blessing to me. And then I called Eddie Bravo, and I was like, all right, man, this is what's on the table in front of us. How well do you know Zoe? He's like, oh man, I've known Zoe for forever. I introduced his band on the stage. So he kind of told me that story about how he was the guy who introduced you.
The first record coming out, Eddie Bravo was the introduction. He came on stage and introduced the band. This is Five Finger Death Punch. This is the record release party. It was Eddie, your professor, and Jiu-Jitsu phenomena, and everybody who's involved with Jiu-Jitsu knows Eddie. Eddie is a musician, and Eddie and I go back a long decades knowing each other. So
yeah, and so
I'm surprised that he said good things. If he said good things, you never told me what he said actually.
Well, so he answered the questions I asked him. I was like, is he a good person? Like, is he honest? Like, can I trust this guy with my baby? Because like you said, man, I put my whole heart into this thing. Keelan put his whole heart into it, and we're just fine continuing to grow it on our own if that's what it comes to, because we love doing it. And Eddie was like, you can trust that guy. He's a great guy. Like, I remember he specifically said, Zoe is a great guy. Like, you should do it. I was like, all right, man.
So he did get back to me, obviously, and actually I appreciated that. That to me, that mattered, that you checked, because that means to me that you're not hasty. You didn't just, here's this guy who's, he's a famous musician, whatever you want to call it, right? And I'm gonna be business with him just because who it is. That doesn't work for me, right? I wanted you to do your due diligence. I wanted you to check, because that tells me that I'm gonna have a good partner who's thinking first, who's a chess player, who doesn't just jump into the shiny new toy. So when I find out from Matt and Eddie that you checked, also for me that was okay. It's a big plus.
Yeah, well, it just really mattered to me, like, what kind of man you are. I want to know if this is a good guy. Like, is this a guy that I can trust? Because I'm going to be given a large portion of something that I've worked really hard on. I'm going to be turning some of that over to him, So it really mattered to me that I knew people that I trusted you.
Right.
That mattered.
And now from here, the timeline, what happens, right? So the timeline here is that we partner up. We have the initial conversation.
Yeah, that was like 2 months.
Right. I engage my team on trademarks and all the business issues, how to make this into a sound business, not just a promotion, right? So from idea and from what it is, it had become an actual real structure, right? And then we started to talk about the coaches and who can be the coaches.
Oh, let me say this. First thing you said to me after we're like, okay, we're gonna do it. We're like, oh yeah, we'll start hugging and jumping around and stuff. And then one of the first things you said is, okay, it's gonna be slow for the first month, 2 months. It's gonna take time because we gotta do all the boring parts, like get the business set up the way we want, and, you know, file a trademark, et cetera, et cetera. But after we get all that done, it's going to explode quick. And that's exactly the way that it's played out. Because I was just, you know, you've been having to like call me back a couple of times, like, dude, it's not time for the announcement.
Right. Don't say
time.
anything. Yeah, I remember this. You were like, hey, can we drop the news in December? I'm like, hold the horses. This has to be a nuclear bomb. This has to be an absolute wipeout when it comes from the perspective of news. When we drop this, all the elements, everything has to be figured out. The names, the coaches, everyone who's involved. This is what I know. This is how we play. But we were talking about the possibility of the coaches, who it can be, right? And eventually we had the final phone call, like, okay, these are the 4 guys. You brought Eddie, obviously, right? And then the other 3 happened. Tell me about when you being a Jiu-Jitsu black belt, right? Just like me, came up in this, and the names that are involved, we know who they are and what they mean to the sport. So when you became, how would I say this? When you realize that this is reality, these are the 4 coaches. Tell me about what happened here.
Oh man, I'm still just freaking out about it, to be honest with you. I got Glover, who's one of my heroes. You got Galval, who's one of the best to ever do it. You got Roger Gracie, who's probably the literal best. Like he's the only guy that Gordon Ryan will say is better than him. You know what I mean? I thought I could get Eddie to do it, but I wasn't sure. It's a big ask. You know, he's notoriously like a very busy guy, you know. So I thought I could get Eddie to do it, but I didn't know. And then Andre Galval and Roger Gracie, to me that was like shoot for the moon, land among the stars. Like I didn't actually think we would get them to say it, if I'm being honest. I didn't actually think that was going to go down that way. But I mean, they just, not only did they say yes, but they're excited. Like they can't wait to do it. Yeah. And I don't know, dude, I just feel happy.
But do you know what? This is that magnetic force. You know that they all agreed, and they also all know what this is, because they understood the rules. We walked them through what exactly going to happen, how it's going to happen. You know, I was talking to them so they could tell my excitement, right? And these guys know me. I don't get excited easy, right? And I guess that Heather's excitement and my excitement talking about this, like, man, this will be a crucial, very important event in the history of Jiu-Jitsu. This will change a lot of things because of the structure, because of the athletes are getting paid, because are they turning professional. You can compete all day. If you're not really getting paid for that, you're not a professional athlete, right? You're a serious athlete, but in the term of professional, you aren't. This is turning. This is becoming the professional league where the champions of other promotions can come here and become a paid professional athlete, right? And as we were talking about it, it's infectious. Everybody started to understand, oh my God, this is serious. This will change. This will change everything. That was the ignition point for them. So by the time it came to you, okay, these guys are in.
I still can't believe it's real, if I'm being honest.
We had a conversation about this, and I told you that this needs to move to Las Vegas. This needs to be in a fight capital of the world. Love Alabama, nothing against it, but this is the world stage for this, right? And so that conversation happened, and then here we are, Las Vegas.
Yeah, here we are in Las Vegas on a cool staircase. Look how cool the staircase is.
It's the most Las Vegas staircase you can ever see.
Yeah.
Right?
I wasn't super sold on Las Vegas right away. Like, not instantly. You know, it didn't take a lot of convincing, but you know, we've been running on a shoestring budget for that was our 5th season of it. And so to me, like the connections and the relationships that I've built there in Decatur allowed us to run at a really low operating budget, you know. And so for me, I was thinking, man, it's gonna be so expensive to go to Vegas. Like, how much is this dude? Like, does he really understand what he's getting himself into? You know. And so I wasn't super sold on it from an operational standpoint. But as you laid out the case more and more, and you proved the case to me over and over, I was like, all right, it's got to be Vegas then.
Right.
And it was absolutely the right choice.
Right.
I mean, look at us now.
Yeah, I mean, like, look, it's the whole idea there was obviously, as I said, I had to look at it from my perspective. That how do I get involved here, and how do I put my fingerprint in here? That I owe a lot to martial arts. I owe a lot to jiu-jitsu. You know, most of my friends, everything around me came out of this. My girlfriend came out of this, right? And so for me, I told you in the beginning, I will, you know, I've been involved with charities and, you know, and philanthropy for forever. I feel like my success with the band and where we are, I need to give back. So you know, it's well recorded that is there. So, but I never had a way to do that with jiu-jitsu, because, you know, I got involved with military organizations, veterans, and anti-poaching and all that, because there are solid organizations that I can trust and I can donate to and I can help, right? So they make a difference. But jiu-jitsu didn't have that sort of body. How do I help? How do I, you know? And this, I saw it that way. Like, you know what? I will put up this money because this will change the life of some of these guys. And when you guys were rewarding some of these guys, and I saw what it meant to them, right? That on the auction, it wasn't a big paycheck, but they were getting paid. And to them, they took it seriously, like, man, this makes me a pro. I'm getting paid. And when I saw that, I'm like, you know what? To this organization, I can also give back. So, besides, obviously, we're building a business, but from my perspective, it didn't matter that I'll put this up. Doesn't matter what it's going to cost. I'll cover this, because I have to give back. And your vehicle was actually a perfect vehicle, because, you know, merit and achievement is attached to this. So it's not just you put something on a table and it goes wherever it goes. It's these guys have to earn this some way. The teams have to earn this some way, right? So, you know, so from my perspective, I saw this, that don't worry about it. We bring it to Vegas, whatever it's gonna be. We're gonna make it as big, as important as it can be.
That's what's going on. That's what's happening. And you've fulfilled every promise that you've made. So it's just the beginning, man.
So we have a 4th member of the organization, and you remember I was telling you, like, look, it's not because she's my partner, but I know you don't see it from this perspective yet, but we're gonna have to bring in Heather Grace into this, because you will see how influential, it's not a known thing, but how influential she actually is in the world of martial arts. She's managing a bunch of fighters, but her connections and how she relates and how she built herself into this world, she's a smooth operator. So she's not a flashy person. Look at me, I achieved this, I did this and that. So it's not really a known thing, but I told you that, hey, so far you trusted me on this, trust me on this one. Let's bring her in as a fourth partner. You will never regret that. How did that pan out?
Yeah. By that time, I believed in you, you know. I had evidence on the table to go, all right, this dude's for real. And so me and Keelan talked about it, and we said, if you think that this is important, then we'll put her in. And she has definitely proved to be important, because Hajer doesn't say yes without her.
Yes.
A couple other things that we haven't announced yet that we will, but those things go down because of her. Something that's going to happen with the combine is happening because of her. Something that's happening with our distribution is happening because of her. So yeah, she's been crucial, and she's like playing my mom when I'm here in Vegas.
She's everybody's mom. I mean, you have to get used to that. She's everybody's mom.
What about Keelan? Tell me what you think about Keelan.
So the reason I knew about Keelan, because back in Los Angeles, remember we were doing a photo shoot for Epic Roll, and we were kind of hanging out. That was the first time I met you, and people were telling me like, oh yeah, Brandon, he's like Eddie's black belt, and he's actually super popular on social media. He's doing instructional videos, and that was my first time to become aware of who you really were, right? And then I heard that you have a partner, Keelan, and how instrumental he is in building your empire. That he's your sort of chief technological officer. He's like this polymath that just knows technology. Any questions you throw at him, he knows something about it, right? But his expertise, obviously, internet, social media, technology, photography, videography, and he all that. It's, and once I met him, he looked very serious, right? Like no expression. Any conversation happened, okay, he's thinking. I mean, his handle is conscious Keelan, right? Yeah. But he's always thinking, right? And I felt kindred spirit with him, because I have the same sort of vibe. I would say that you can see that the wheels are turning, right? So I found a kindred soul in him. Like he processes information I do, right? So, and from that I also knew it's gonna take him a minute. He will listen, he will calculate, and on the end he will make his decision exactly how I operate, right? So to me he was a kindred spirit. I'm like, I can hang with him. And now that we are doing this, we have these all night long conversations about philosophy and everything else. So with him I didn't just gain a business partner, right? I feel like I gained also a friend that's really difficult to find when you can really dig deep into various subjects and just
it's got to be a weird position that you find yourself in too, like when you meet somebody,
right?
Like a lot of times they got to kind of have like selfish intentions, or like you don't know what they're exactly up to, so it's got to be hard to just like meet and make new friends.
Yeah, it is, but I think I have a pretty good judge of character, right? And with him, I sort of saw it right away, like we're gonna be friends on different levels too, not just this, right? And that's what it is. I mean, like, look, we have this beautiful thing we're building, right? We are all excited about changing the world in Jiu-Jitsu, and then also we can sit there until 5 a.m, talk about philosophy and all kind of crazy stuff. That's when you have a dream team, when it's not just a business, we are actual friends. That motherfucker.
I can't talk anymore. My voice is PGF season 6 starts April 21st right here in Las Vegas.
And more info at pgf.world, not .com, .world.